Thank you, Mr. Chair. We may begin the meeting.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to call the meeting to order. My name is Councillor Paul Ainsley. I'm the Chair of the Board of Management of the Toronto Zoo. The clerk has confirmed that we have quorum, so I'd like to now call meeting number 10 of the Board of Management of the Toronto Zoo to order. This meeting is being held using the city's WebEx technology with members and staff connected by video conference or calling in. Because we're meeting remotely, we ask for your patience for any delays and technical issues. We do not have any registered public speakers today, and members of the public can observe the meeting on YouTube. I would like to request that all staff keep their videos turned off unless they need to speak or answer questions. This will make it easier for me as the chair and for those watching on YouTube to observe members as they participate in the debate on each item and during votes. I'd also like to ask all members and staff to keep their microphones on mute unless you need to ask a question or speak. If members do need to speak on an item, I ask that you wait until staff presented. I'll then ask members who wish to ask questions of staff to speak. If you do, please make sure your video is on. Please raise your hand or unmute your mic and indicate your intention to speak, and I'll be creating a speakers list. When voting, I ask members to make sure your video is turned on and raise your hands to indicate your vote. Although we're in different locations and meeting remotely today, the board would like to acknowledge the land we're meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty Number 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the William Treaty signed with multiple Mississauga and Chippewa bands. At this point, are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? If there are, if you could please raise your hand or unmute your mic. Seeing none, can I please have a motion to confirm the minutes of the Board of Management of Toronto Zoo meeting on February 6th?
Move Cynthia Lai.
Cynthia Lai, seconded by Cynthia Holmes. All in favor? Carried. And another motion for the Board of Management of Toronto Zoo special meeting held on May 25th, 2020. Brittany, seconded by Claudia. All in favor? Carried. We have one item of display the item. The item is the enactment correction of the bylaw. We May 25th meeting amends our meeting process. All in favor? Sorry, I'm moving it. All in carried. The first item on the agenda is the Toronto Zoo COVID-19 update. I'll ask Dolph to give updates on this item. Once again, I'll remind staff to only turn on their camera and unmute their microphone while speaking. And board members, please wait until Dolph is done and everybody have an opportunity to ask questions of him. Dolph, whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ainsley. And I'm going to have a variety of speakers from our team joining us today. It's National Zookeepers Week. I don't know if you were all aware, so we're excited to have a chance to celebrate our amazing animal care staff. They're dedicated to our animals, they're committed to our cause, and we also like to take this opportunity to extend it to our broader team. Whether you feed the animals and work with them directly, or you're the support staff who make it possible, I'm grateful to all of them who choose to work and support our amazing Toronto Zoo. And I also want to extend a huge thank you to our guests who have been coming out over the past few weeks. They have been incredibly supportive of the new initiatives, of the new ways we are operating. It's no secret the past 4 months has been a very challenging time as we look at our models, as we look at how to operate safely and continue to evolve and adapt. And our team's been proactive, innovative, and taken great steps to make sure we're the zoo the community deserves. So to all of them, thank you for your support. Also, a quick shout out to our volunteer team. They've been incredible, and our broader community. I had the opportunity to speak to the Scarborough Business Association earlier this week, and I really just can't say enough about how the local area and the City of Toronto have come together to support our zoo. Before we talk a little bit more about COVID-19 and its impacts, I want to circle back to some good luck, some good fortune, some good planning that took place in February when we approved our new strategic plan. The shift and doubling down on our mission, connecting people, animals, and conservation science, has never been more important. And the strategic priorities that we set out, saving animals, igniting the passion, creating WOW, our zoo, our community, and embracing technology, have really been powerful guiding posts through this period. As our mission, connecting people, animals, and conservation science, was really tough to do, we couldn't have people walk in the front door. That shift to the digital piece has been enormous. Our traditional approach will continue to be challenged, there's no question. On a given weekend in previous years, we could be expecting 10,000 plus guests. As it stands today, we're capped at around 4,000 walk-through, as well as cars from the scenic safari. So we're going to work to keep increasing that, but our model of massive foot traffic will continue to be challenged for the near future. Part of the shifts we need to make, and we're talking about and taking steps towards, what does it mean to be an 18 or 24-hour-a-day zoo? How do we provide more of those boutique and unique experiences and online experiences to get people out? And what is our planning framework that's going to let us get there? We're taking a long, hard look at our master plan. It's not that old, but its framework was based on that traditional high-volume model. And what we decide to add to our zoo, how we decide to build it, needs to evolve to reflect the times we're in and the world as it continues to grow and reopen. I had the opportunity to talk to many of our board members prior to this meeting. Thank you for your feedback as far as what you wanted to hear about. One of the questions was about Terra Lumina and what does that look like for us? So a quick synopsis of results. We ran from December around the 13th till early March before we were closed with COVID. Just under $1.2 million in revenue came in, and 42,000 plus people enjoyed that new program. One of the key results, you'll hear me say it over and over again, the busiest January and February as far as walk-in traffic through our front door in our zoo's history. No question, an incredible impact. Also a key part of our tech surge forward, as we finally had Wi-Fi on site for at least part of our whole zoo, and part of changing our narrative, as we demonstrated we're not that same old zoo, and we're embracing technology while highlighting mission. Imagine that world in 2099 where wildlife and wild spaces thrive. You read the reports earlier this week, polar bears predicted to be extinct by 2100. If there ever was a time to call people to action, it's now. Other operational highlights. We're very close to getting a contract signed and breaking ground on our orangutan habitat. We've been working on this project for a long time, and we're excited about what the upcoming weeks are going to bring as far as next steps to highlight this important species, the challenges they face in the wild, and of course what the public can do to help through simple actions like what they purchase and awareness of palm oil. We will be asking for your help, actually, on this matter. The Wildlife Conservancy is committed to raise $3 million to support the construction of this habitat. And they're looking for your help and building the relationships into the community to help leverage this. There's no question we're going to be able to build something amazing for these animals together, and our team is truly excited about it. Another operational update tying back to a board meeting almost a year ago. With the changes in COVID-19, we are going to defer the implementation of dynamic pricing. We looked at this model as a key way to help better serve our guests, to optimize service, and deal with the large crowds we'd have at times. In a COVID-19 world, some of those challenges, for the short term anyway, have been delayed, and we're going to put that off. So, to our reopening, our key focus, safety, safety, safety. How do we get people back? How do we have them have a great zoo experience? And how do we have them go home and make sure we're not part of anything other than helping flatten the curve and help people's mental health out? So we continue to consider what those new normals look like. We're also busy preparing for a second wave. We've heard a lot of talk about it being here in the fall, and exploring what that looks like. So taking the lessons we've learned from the first wave, how do we manage our resources? How do we manage our costs? Of course, considering animal care, making sure we can meet our nutritional needs, having that food in stock, considering what guest experience could look like, depending on what stage of emergency we're in, and of course, looking at those staffing levels. We're working closely with Toronto Public Health. They've been amazing partners, making sure we're stretching, but also responsible. And of course, working with the City of Toronto, they've been absolutely incredible partners through this. You know, our largest single cost is staffing. And like many city agencies, we're struggling to generate revenue without those huge crowds. So we're working to come up with those new programs and manage those total numbers, and I'll speak to them in a few minutes. We're not taking any support for granted. We're working really hard to build those relationships, help people understand what they're investing in, and we're really paying attention and keeping our ear to the ground as far as next steps. We don't yet know what it will look like for schools in the fall. How are we going to support our community in this matter? We're also looking at other elements of our operations. What is membership going to look like in a COVID world, depending on what happens with our educational facilities? And we're looking to 2021. What does our longer-term budget look like? And are we clear on our organizational priorities as far as the next steps we need to take? So with regards to staffing, we have all full-time staff, with the exception of a few accommodations and a few redeployed, and several staff working from home, back online. So that's good news. As far as non-permanent staff, these are the folks that would usually work between May and Labor Day. We have about 2/3 of those staff returning to support us in those operations. Many of them are in very new roles. If you visited the zoo, you're going to see staff at doorways. You're going to see staff doing cleaning of bathrooms between uses. Those are not traditional roles we would have. And in many cases, we have team members who used to be on Zoomobile or Splash Island redeployed there. But, you know, about 1/3 of our seasonal staff haven't been returned to those positions, haven't been filled. With regards to those operations, we are waiting to see next steps about reopening operations or Splash Island. But based on the timing and how it's proceeding, I'm not particularly optimistic we will see either of those back this season. With that, I'm actually going to kick it over to Adam Houston, our Director of Guest Experience, to talk a little bit more about our guest experience.
Great. Thanks, Dolph. Good morning, everyone. Just wanted to talk about the reopening process. So as you're all aware, we did open the Scenic Safari drive-through, and that was May 20th. That was for our members, and then we opened to the general public on May 23rd. We then started working toward what does the zoo reopening look like to get pedestrians back on site. We wanted to continue to operate the Scenic Safari drive-through, but also bring guests walking through the front gates again. We were able to do that safely, and we started doing that on June 27th when we had members welcomed back through the gate. That was through one-way paths only and pavilions only one way as well. So arrows on the ground, lots of signs, and as Dolph said, lots of staff cleaning everywhere. And then July 4th, we then opened that up to the general public. We've now evolved and started to move through some other things. So this week, we've opened some other areas of the zoo. Through the savannah, we needed to make it a two-way path, so lots of signs and lines in the middle of the paths. And we've also looked at a way to continue with the Scenic Safari drive-through and make it as great an experience as possible. So we have done a couple of things there, and we've closed off some parts of the day to pedestrians and some parts of the day to the Scenic Safari, so that the people in the cars have a better experience and people walking on site have a better experience. And also this week, we've taken to Mondays, which are traditionally our least busy day, and used those as deep clean days, and also as days where we could bring Scenic Safari online as the demand looks forward. Our next steps, we want to take the inner loop of the zoo through the core woods, if you will, and have that be a two-way path. What that will allow is the guests, when they come through the front gate, to not all have to go to the left and up to Indo and Africa Pavilion, and they will be able to go to the right and kind of choose their own day, and then branch off and do the one-way loops through Tundra or Eurasia or through the Africa Pavilion, which will still be all one way, and kind of choose when they want to do those things. So a lot more flexibility for the guest day. like I said, the good news is we are going to continue to have the Scenic Safari with new operating models. We're just thinking about the smartest way to do that and make both experiences possible, as safe as possible. It's going to be very important to continue with the Scenic Safari, as it's an option for those guests who aren't comfortable returning walking on site yet, and it'll continue for the foreseeable future.
You're on mute, Dolph.
Rolf, you're on mute.
Thank you for that, Adam. And I thought I both came on with the video. I apologize. Nice shout out on Twitter from a visit yesterday. Huge shout out to the Toronto Zoo for an amazing visit today. Totally felt safe being out with my kids with the safety measures in place. We needed this change of pace today. Thank you. So huge amount of work going on there as we continue to evolve. With that, I'm going to kick it over to Leah Lee, our Director of Finance, to talk a little bit about numbers and some of the technology changes we've made to adapt to the COVID-19 realities.
Hi there, everyone. So with Scenic Safari drive-through, we actually were able to adapt to it and bring in new guests to our sites. We had 37,700 car who came in as of June 30th. And then we also earned revenue of $2 million by that time. And on the cost side, the additional direct cost that associated with the Scenic Safari Drive was $166,000. So that initiative is really giving us a lot of opportunities for the ongoing operation for our zoo. I was going to provide some updates on technology that actually enable our staff to weather this storm. So on the technology side, I'm hoping that I could share my screen. Unfortunately, that option is not available for me at this moment. So I'm just going to talk through it. And so since COVID, we had the remote working enabled for our staff. It was never heard of before COVID. And within a couple of months, we were able to roll out Microsoft Teams, SharePoint sites, and the team viewer for our staff to access the city's system. And due to COVID, we unfortunately have to delay some of our infrastructure projects. That includes some of the upgrades on sites for our boardrooms and training rooms. We also have voice over IP system upgrades that had to be delayed. We also delayed some display management tool upgrades and in-house server migration to the cloud. But with COVID, we also give us a lot more additional opportunities. And we developed some further relationship with our partners, including partnership with UOIT. We have some network students to help us to execute our Zoo upgrade in the Zoo network. We also have some students doing Zoo app and case study on our technology upgrades. Beside that, we engage our community partners in looking into startup companies. We have a company called Eagle to look at developing a thermal detection system on sites. They enable AI cloud monitoring capability to enable technology development on the thermal detection as well. Beside that, we had our Breezy camera. The Breezy camera is another new startup company that actually is providing AI capability of engaging our guests in active moving of our camera on site, and currently we have that camera for our giraffes. Beside that, we already talked about the Scenic Safari. On top of it, we have the Zoo app that we're developing. COVID, in the COVID world, it's more important for us to be able to engage our guests in different ways, and we're developing the Zoo app that will allow our guests to do wayfinding, animal information, push notifications, and able to adapt to other new applications for our guests to sign up for memberships and food services on site, etc., etc. We also engaged another partner with Centennial College to develop a Tundra app. The Tundra app will be adapting to to the existing developing app that we're doing, and also be able to engage our guests in a more educational way. And that is also with not just a partnership with Centennial College, but also with WinTech. Beside that, we upgraded our website using a Spotify company called Nutricell to upgrade our retail store online, membership sites, and AdApp and animal sites for the Toronto Zoo Wildlife Conservancy. We have a technology transformation and innovation master plan that we rolled out to an RFP to get some bidder on sites to enable us to think about our future in the next 10 years. We are looking to be the most technologically advanced zoo in the next 10 years, and this is going to be the roadmap to help us to achieve that. Besides supporting the zoo, we also supported the Wildlife Conservancy on online donation. We're also looking into options of providing tapping donations for orangutan fundraising and other opportunities for our guests to donate to us and get more support in our communities. And lastly, we have a virtual zoo that is actually online right now. So with COVID, it gave us another tremendous opportunity for us to open up the online site. We now have strategic communication providing Facebook Live updates every day. We also have learning and engagement, opening up virtual free programs, and we also open up some charge programs through our online sites to engage guests, and now you can order an animal to come to your meeting online. So with all that, it's really giving us a lot more opportunities for us to bring the zoo to our guests. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you very much, Aaliyah. And a lot of good work on technology as we've had to make that pivot in a very short period of time and with really important outcomes. And with that, I'm going to kick it over to Jennifer Tracy to talk a little bit about social media and why it matters.
Thank you, Dolph. So as we navigate and adapt to this new world, we certainly continue to provide our zoo community with quality and engaging online content, which we are confident will continue to lead to long-term support and loyalty from our fans. Recent studies and surveys out of the US, mind you, not Canada, but I'm sure they're quite similar, indicated that consumers who feel more connected and engaged with a brand are more likely to support that organization in the future, as well as to visit it when consumer behavior and confidence starts to return. In addition, our valued zoo members will also become champions and advocates for the zoo when they share their positive experiences while visiting us as well. One study I do want to point to quite quickly is done by Mori Consulting out of the US, which focuses primarily on zoos, aquariums, museums, science centers, and botanical gardens, and really solidifies for us the strategies that we have undertaken in terms of social media engagement and the importance of our members. And with that, one of the key findings from Mori is that organizations who will not experience significant attendance decreases are more likely to have engaged with consumers, engaged with the public through digital technology. And that number was, I believe it was quite high at 44%, showed that they would continue to support that organization because they had followed them and became very engaged with them, whether it was through entertainment, interactive, virtual programming, any of that sort. So, and also those who are engaged with an organization through social media are much more likely to become members, to share social media posts, to donate, which we did see in April with the Food for Life campaign, and then to purchase tickets, which is key to our success, of course, going forward. So as we continue to develop online engagement tools, to continue to build this strong community support, and to talk more about some of the successes we have had, I'm going to turn it over to Katie Gray. She's the manager of strategic communications at the zoo and leads a small team of incredible people who have been so dedicated to providing this engaging content 7 days a week to our loyal fan base. And I also want to thank each of the board members for your ongoing support and for sharing our content and helping us to amplify those messages with the public. Katie? Oh, we can't hear you, Katie.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Loud and clear.
perfect. Okay. So thank you so much, Jennifer, for the intro, and thank you to all the board members. Our online engagement stats continue to show exceptional growth, and I'm really excited to share some of those with you today. Pre-COVID, just to give you some context, we had approximately 360,000 followers across all of our online social media platforms. Right now, we are just shy of 500,000. So that's including our YouTube, and we introduced TikTok through this COVID time. So that's about a 40% increase just during this pandemic closure time, which is truly extraordinary. And I'd like to also give a shout out to a very small group of people, my team, who's small but mighty, and it's a testament to a lot of hard work and an entire Zoom organizational effort to get that content together and push it out to people. Our year-to-date stats for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are now over 128 million impressions and over 7.5 million engagements. Just to give you an example, last week we posted, if any of you follow us, a video of our grizzly bear. And it was lounging and looking quite comfortable in his exhibit. It's gone viral with 1.2 million views on Facebook alone. So people are watching our content, they're anxious to see it, they're hungry for it, and we see they are absolutely sharing it, engaging with it, and to Jennifer's point, that, something we need to maintain as an organization. For some context as well, comparison to other attractions and organizations both in Canada and the US, we have a media tracking company, social media tracking, who gives us comparisons to our counterparts, other attractions, other zoos. We remain the top performer based on engagements and followings in the GTA, so that's comparing us to other attractions, the G5, and some other organizations. And on a sort of more North American scale of the top performing zoos, we are only behind Cincinnati and San Diego. So that's really putting us in a realm of, really heavy hitters and players in the social media world. And as some of you may recall, before COVID, we'd already ramped up our social media game, but now we've just taken it to a whole new level. And I'm really proud of the zoo as a whole for shifting into this as such a huge accomplishment. Our daily Facebook Lives, which have been mentioned, we've had about 120, give or take, which is amazing. And it's been a great tool to share our stories, share our content, our conservation message. Anytime we've had babies born with our baby giraffe, we started doing weekly ones to give people some continuity and updates on our baby giraffe. We also announced the name of the baby giraffe, you might recall, with the Facebook Live. We have had great two-way dialogue with our audience through this platform, and in some cases we've given access to our public through our Facebook Lives to content they haven't had access to before in that sort of live real-time setting. So releasing our Blandings turtles, we were able to do that on a Facebook Live and share that with audiences, which is something, they can't be there to release them. So it's been very valuable to give them access to new content as well that we haven't done before. We've had some great success with our virtual Campout Canada Day events. We had a Toronto Star live cam, which was a great partnership, and we've just really enhanced overall our whole social media contact. And we've used our dynamic website changes to share those messages as well. We've used some videos that we've worked really hard to share. Things like when we were reopening, we had a welcome back video so people knew how to feel safe, and we shared that on social media. And as Aaliyah mentioned, we're about to launch our new live cam with Breezy Cam. So watch for that, and it's crowd controlled. So basically people can control where the video looks in the habitat. So it's on our giraffe. And we're really excited to see how this performs. It's something very new for us, and it has great opportunity down the line. There could be opportunities even for monetizing and potentially being a revenue stream, which is what we need to do as well with some of these opportunities. So watch for that. That'll be coming out shortly. But I think the takeaway is we've been very creative, very responsive, very ambitious with our online and social media, and it's really paid off. I want to very briefly mention as well, Jennifer mentioned about how that connection between your social media enhancement and engagement, how it feeds back to your member and your guest support. So we put a member survey out last Saturday. The reason for this was we needed to gain some insight into the value and experience of our Zoo members during this COVID time, how they're feeling, to start making some decisions on how to maintain member retention, perhaps some acquisition campaign ideas, and we needed some data to help us make those decisions. So the survey went out to about 24,000 households, give or take. we received a response rate of 3,450 surveys. That's about a 14% response rate, which for those of you who are aware of that type of data, that's extremely high. And makes the results very statistically significant. So we learned that approximately half of our members have come back to see us since we reopened, which is great. Over 80% of them are planning to renew their membership, which at this time, there was a lot of unknowns surrounding that, financially, what people's interests were, what their comfort levels were. And for those not planning to renew, the number one reason was because they don't feel safe visiting anywhere right now. It wasn't really specific to us, which was important for us to understand if there's something more we could be doing. 90% of them were pleased with their extension that they received. They did receive an extension on their membership. And something interesting was one of the highest ratings was staff. 94% of the people said they rated our staff good to excellent. So there's a number of factors here to consider, but the most interesting that I just want to point out is that when asked the reason that they would renew their membership, they could choose a number of choices, and they could choose more than one. So great value for their money was chosen by 50% of the respondents, which we would expect. But the number one reason that people want to renew their membership, 71% to support the zoo, which is, I think, a real testament to all of our efforts and to how we are connecting with our members on an ongoing way, both when they're on our site, but also with our social media and engagement. So I think that's an important takeaway. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Dol. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Katie. And that connection to community is such a huge part of our new strategic plan and us growing into that new zoo. And with that, please introduce Valerie, our new Director of Human Resources. She had her 100th day at the zoo a few days ago. She picked a very interesting time to join us for certain. And Valerie, I'll kick it over to you to talk about some of the plans we're doing about equity and inclusion.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to meet you all virtually. So I just want to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion at the zoo and what we're doing. So we're currently working on building our diversity, equity, and inclusion framework, and we will be branding it Know Better, Zoo Better. So we definitely recognize that there's a lot of work in being more diverse and inclusive at our zoo. We need to critically reflect on our approach to promoting and building a culture that reflects the entire community. And we know that a clear plan for DEI is necessary. It's the right thing to do. And really, it's a big component of realizing our strategic priorities. The zoo's strategic plan and outlines key priority that focuses on envisioning the zoo as the heart of our community. So really, our overall goal is to develop a framework for transformational change in diversity, equity, and inclusion. So to begin, I mean, this is a very long-term plan, and it's going to be ongoing, of course. But to begin, we're going to be focusing on, our internal community, which is our staff and our volunteers, our external partnerships and community members, and of course, our guests and our members. So our plan will include enhancing the clarity about DEI, what is expected of our leaders at the Toronto Zoo, key assessment of key leadership traits and competencies to foster inclusive leadership, greater awareness among all our employees of the values and the goals for DEI. And that includes our employees and our volunteers, attracting talent from talent pools that may not have been tapped before, attract deeper understanding among our key stakeholders, how to reach increasingly diverse, previously unreached guests, members, partners, and engage them at the zoo, engage them in a way that's really meaningful. And we're going to continue to develop our partnerships within the community. Currently, we have 3 partnerships and with MOUs with Storefront, Wood Green, and newly developed is with the De Rio Foundation. I actually didn't know about the De Rio Foundation until I got here, which is extremely interesting to me. And it was started by Dwayne De Rosario, a Canadian professional soccer player. So we're starting to move forward in developing those relationships. The timing really is ideal to begin this work since the environment is is more receptive than ever to enact this type of change. We'll be working with some experts in the field to help us move this along. So moving our zoo to embrace the 21st century EDI, we know definitely starts with leadership. Dolph, as our leader, is absolutely committed to this, of course, as all our leadership team is. One of the things we were talking about, and I think one of the things we're going to be exploring initially, is looking at our titles, and specifically the word chief, which definitely has a history that induces a variety of reactions. And we're committed really to understanding this and understanding our impacts that our choices have on others. So this is an ongoing initiative, a work in progress, but really we're working to develop a solid framework to move forward. And as we go along, we will provide you with updates and information. And that's all I have.
Thanks for that, Valerie, and thanks again for choosing to join our zoo. It's been great to have you on board thus far. Our team really has been amazing at leaning in to these challenges, and there's been no shortage of them, as you know, through the past period. So Aaliyah and Valerie both hit the ground running. We also have Beth and the Toronto Zoo Wildlife Conservancy coming online. Really exciting times at our zoo. Also, just want to send a quick thank you and some public recognition to some unsung heroes, folks who have really been instrumental in driving change over the past few months. You heard from Adam Houston earlier. If we were going to, talk about the person who brought the Scenic Safari to life and brought the idea forward, he's been absolutely amazing about rethinking our guest experience. And another real hero for our team and our community has been Joanne Eaton, who is our manager of safety and security, who's kept our team safe, keeps us on the straight and narrow, and really makes sure we live those values. So really, really amazing folks that have been in our organization for a long time, who have really just shone through this period. I'd love to list them all, but it'd be a long meeting. Anyway, we're committed to continuing to be that small A activist organization and using our voice to affect changes for nature and to affect changes in our community, and growing into that zoo that people love even more and the community advocates for. So thanks to all of you for your ongoing support. And that concludes our report, Councillor Ainsley.
Thank you, Dolph, and come with me. Are there any questions from the board member on the presentation? You could raise your hand or
Hey, Paul, it's Paul Young here. I just wanted to comment about the DEI initiative. I think I'd just go a little bit further and say it's just not the right thing to do. It's well overdue. I've talked to Dolph, and I really appreciate his open ear. When John Sow and I went to the volunteer appreciation event last year, we noticed we were the only visible minorities there. And I think it's just not something we should be doing. It's like the strength of Toronto and everything is its diversity. And if our management and our employees and our volunteers don't represent community in which we the community of Toronto, it's like you're missing out on something that's really huge. It's not just like we should have a certain number of people of color on our board, or people of color on senior management, or people of color volunteered or employed. But I mean, there's something that it's just not the right thing to do. I disagree with that statement, because I think it's like you're missing out on a whole resource. And I don't think that people should be doing it just because people should be getting jobs because they're POC. It's because they add a lot to it's just not a tick box so far as I'm concerned.
And sorry, this is Valerie. I guess that was the correct statement, and we absolutely understand that it is long overdue. And I've only been here at the zoo for 3 months, but I have learned quite a bit, and you are right. So maybe that wasn't the right choice of words. How it's not a tick box. It's a long-term commitment. It's well overdue. And honestly, since I've been here, we've been getting a lot of same types of comments that you're providing us. So we need to call it and we need to say, yeah, it's real. We haven't done it and we need to do it. I mean, I say we need to do it, but it's long overdue. So I appreciate your comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
I saw Cynthia live. Cynthia?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You may hear some of the background noises. I'm actually replacing the roof in my house today. It's just not a good day, but it rained yesterday, so if you can have your indulgence on that. I just have a couple of questions for the Dolph team, I would say. Okay, you're doing a really amazing leadership job, Dolph. I really want to commend you on that. And just a couple of questions on, regarding to social media. And just a couple of things that I've been always mentioning about. I really thank Paul for raising, about the DEI plan and all that. And, we have 3 people, more than 3 or 4 people that are with Asian descent on the board. And I think, I'm actually committed, just like the other board directors wanted to make sure that is reflective of the population in Toronto. And I think that's one of the missing link that we have and really have to play the catch up for it. Just for a question for staff about your social media, I mentioned a couple of times about WeChat. Are we progressing on that, or do you need any help on that? Or because we do have a lot of local people that actually uses this social media. So just a question for staff. For Katie, maybe.
Yeah, Katie?
Katie, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
There, that's better.
Okay, sorry, technical difficulties. So further to that, actually, after I think the last board meeting, we have had a couple discussions. Cynthia, we did get in touch with, there's a media agency actually who had reached out earlier in the year that we've connected with, who sort of specializes in some of the cultural media markets. So we've started some conversations. Unfortunately, we still have not actually spent any money, basically because of the situation, on any paid advertising. We are starting now to reconsider and open some opportunities to primarily digital. That's basically what a lot of that is going to be. We do need help in some markets. So WeChat was one that was discussed with this outlet, and I can share contact with you after this meeting if you'd like, just so you know who they are. But we're always open to ideas if you have certain contacts or connections you want to put us in touch with, but WeChat did come up as a primary one. We did, through this contact of this sort of, they focus on the cultural media market, have some connections to media and just doing some PR with them. So Dolph has done some interviews in certain markets that we've never done before in the last, I think, month or so. So we're opening up some of those networks, and I think that we've actually, in our budget planning, we've actually carved out specific funding for that as well. So I totally agree. I think there's a lot more we can do. Again, we haven't actually done any paid up to this point for obvious reasons, but we will be certainly exploring some of those options, and WeChat has come up a few times as a key component of that.
I think we really have to do things and move things along. And the other question I have is for Aliyah. Well, thank you for doing a good job for being this short time in the zoo. I just wanted to ask whether there is any plans for, we're going to be having to fill the hole of the, of the budget this year. Are there any plans that you are undertaking just to make sure that we balance the books? I think it's impossible, but, just wanted to have an idea of what you are planning to do for that.
Yes, that's a good question. Thank you. I apologize for my camera not working in the previous presentation I got. And so the question around budget, this is obviously a very difficult one because we are obviously in deficits, and in the summertime is actually normally our biggest time to earn about $5 million of surplus in order for us to survive for the winter time and the fall time. So unfortunately, the plan right now is just to work very closely with the city to let them know that there is a plan for us trying to get as much revenue as possible from our drive-through zoo and from our other initiatives online. And we have the virtual, hopefully we'll be able to pick up sometime soon. And with walk-in, all walk-in guests coming in nowadays, we will be able to hopefully gain more crowds on sites, obviously not violating any health and safety, but also providing a safe environment and comfortable environment for our guests to come in. So we're still in the midst of thinking about a lot more additional initiatives, and we'll keep you posted on that.
Final question actually is to Dolph. Could you give us an update on the baby red panda that passed away? I'm just being a little nosy about what happened, and I heard on the news and.
Yeah, I will provide that. And just going back to Aaliyah's point, laser focus on driving new revenue, but also containing costs. We're looking how we are careful about what we're investing in, making sure we're saving those dollars. As far as the red pandas are concerned, our first red panda is born at our zoo in 24 years. We were so excited to get a pair of twins. First-time mother. Unfortunately, she's not producing a lot of milk. We're continuing to work really closely with the other cub. She's doing okay, but ultimately, that first-time mom wasn't producing enough. We did intervene. We brought the animal into the incubator, and unfortunately, she didn't make it. So, we were all really saddened by it and disappointed because it was such an exciting time, and we're going to continue to focus all our energy on that remaining cub.
The remaining cub is going to be okay going forward? Yeah.
You know what? Our team, all indicators, we literally have daily updates on wonderful little animal, and it's going the right way. Dr. Santini, I don't know if you want to weigh in if you have any updates since our last conversation.
So we are actually feeding that animal every 3 hours around the clock, and she is being cared for by her mother, though. So she's actively grooming the cub when we put it back to her after every feeding. So it looks really promising right now. The cub is strong. It's gaining weight. It's weighed regularly as well as the feeding. So right now things are looking good. Again, the first few weeks are really critical for these animals, but right now it's looking great. So I'm hoping that continues.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Those are my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Cynthia. Other questions of staff on the presentation?
It's Claudia.
Claudia, go ahead.
So it's to the point that was made earlier around volunteer demographics, and I think that with the issue of recruitment and employment around diversity, I think that's something where you can directly impact and directly intervene in how you recruit, how you hire. But I think changing the demographics of our volunteers to reflect our community is going to have to really require some identification of community champions to start out as volunteers and become those leaders. Because, I used to volunteer on the board of AIDS organizations in the 90s. And the people that volunteered in AIDS organizations were members of the LGBTQ community who saw this as having a direct impact in their lives, and their family members and supporters. Other people did not volunteer in these organizations because although it was a global pandemic, people didn't see it as mattering to them. I think right now in our time of COVID-19 and all the work you've done around social media to get awareness of the zoo out there and in the background of conversation that we've been building, this is the time to do it. But I think there's going to have to be a clear strategy developed in order to identify those leaders to then build that support and create those volunteers, because you're not paying them and you can't compel people to do it. So people have to see it as relevant and something they're going to give up their time to do. And there's also, I'm not going to go on and talk about layers of privilege and other things, but I think those are things to be kept in mind.
Yeah, and Paul, I'm happy to comment on that. And you're absolutely right, Claudia. And that's, the backbone of our Know Better, Zoo Better plan is actually looking at the entire pipeline from, are there communities that aren't actually getting the opportunity to visit our zoo, to what do those volunteers look like, and does the appeal and the ask for making exclude groups or populations, to our seasonal staffing, to our full-time staffing and permanent roles. We have to address every element of that pipeline, and it's going to be a pretty large strategy, and we need help to do it. And our first step, I describe it as reflecting on what we think we know, because we clearly have some gaps, and we're leaning into that and owning that. And when you see the memorandums of understanding that we've signed with East Scarborough Storefront as a key community partner, with Wood Green as a settlement service agency with the ability to really connect with us, and the Duro Foundation, literally right around the corner at Malvern, really providing important services to a lot of kids. And how can we work together to get them out and use things that connect us, like sport, and make the bridge to environment? We're really excited about those opportunities, but we have a long road ahead of us, and some really heavy lifting to do at a time when we have a lot of things that could distract us, when we can't afford to be distracted anymore. You're talking about an organization that raised a pride flag for the first time last year. We don't have a little bit of catch up to do. We've got a lot of work to do.
Claudia, other questions? Or no? Okay, thanks, Claudia. Thanks, Dolph. Other members of the committee that have questions on the presentation? Okay, seeing none, I just wanted to thank Jennifer and in particular Katie for all of their work that they've been doing around technology and social media. I know when I first got on the zoo board, our social media presence was very low. There was actually on Twitter, the only Twitter account we had was actually being run by the keepers that were looking after the elephants. We had no capacity for online ticket purchasing. I think we've come a long way, and I want to thank staff, and all the staff as well, Dolph, if you can pass it on behalf of the board, for all the work that they've been doing. I know that during the scenic tour, I was on that a number of times. I've been on the grounds talking with staff. Everybody's working very hard. And during these times, they all have such a positive outlook on the work they're doing. I think really speaks well and reflects well on what the Toronto Zoo is doing. Okay, I need a motion to receive the presentation.
Mr. Chair, could I quickly speak to the presentation? I just had question to staff just now, and I just wanted to quickly speak to the presentation. Just very briefly.
No problem. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Sorry, just very briefly, I really wanted to congratulate Dolph and your team for doing such great work, because, I'm happy to what I'm hearing. I'm really very happy to what I'm hearing, and I'm very looking forward to your DEI plan, transformation and change. And also, what I like about is when Valerie was mentioning about the HR component. There's a few of them. I think it's very important that we don't not only looking at internal community but external partnership, guests and members, and volunteer as well. So I think the HR role has been expanded to quite a different role that used to be from the old school, whatever. I like what I'm hearing, and I really wanted to congratulate and thank again to all those unsung heroes Dolph is mentioning. I didn't catch the names, but whoever you are, I really thank you for doing rethinking of what the guest experience is all about, and I hope everybody will be the team. I just wanted to give you some some pat on the shoulder and just thank you, and you're doing a great job, and just keep going. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Cynthia. Did anybody else want to speak to this item? My apologies, I should have asked for that. Seeing none, so I need a mover to receive this item. Jonathan, seconded by Paul. All in favor? Carried. Our next item is the 2019 audit results report. Does anybody have questions on this item of staff? Dolph, I see your hand there.
Paul, if I could just...
You're not allowed to ask questions of yourself.
I just wanted to provide a quick lead into that, because I think for most of us, 2019 feels like 11 years ago. And, it's easy to lose sight of the fact that we went through our first major restructuring in 2 decades. We had a significant amount of staff change with departures and retirements. We added Terra Lumina. We did that with funds from the Toronto Foundation, not costing our city partners those dollars. We had the Toronto Zoo Wildlife Conservancy established. After years of work, we finally landed that, and the Zoo Food for Life, we already started seeing those benefits this year in 2020. And, there was a lot of noise going on as far as the volume of changes, and considering the changes we went through, I really want to celebrate the progress we made financially, and again, celebrate the staff. It seems like a long time ago, but I often look at a newspaper article from June of 2019 saying, change hasn't been easy. And I look at it now and I kind of roll my eyes as I think about the past few months, but the team went through so much in 2019, and it's reflected in those financial results, but also you can see the volume of change in some of the variances in there. So with that, back to you, Paul.
Thanks, Dolph. Appreciate the feedback and the further clarification on the report. Does anybody have any questions for Dolph on this report? Seeing none, I need somebody to move the report. Cynthia Holmes, seconded by Brittany. All in favor? Carried. Our third item is our 2019 draft financial statements. Members, do you have any questions of staff on this item? Seeing none, would anybody like to speak to it? Seeing none, can I have a mover on this item? Jennifer, seconded by Matthew. All in favor? Carried. Number 4 is our ZB 10.4 front entrance and conservation campus project. Dolph, you had some comments on this, I believe.
Yes, just for some additional context, everyone, projects like this, I think, represent, a physical manifestation of the change we're talking about. We could just build a traditional entrance that you'd see at an attraction, but we see it as our responsibility and an opportunity to do better by our community. Look at the assets out at our front entry. A parking lot that often sits idle in the evening, the real estate there that we could put to better use. And as we talk about becoming an 18 to 24 hour, 365 day a year operation to better serve our community, how do we bring those pieces online? So this project actually came to you originally last February when we bumped it up in our priority list for master planning. We have some great partners circling. And even yesterday, you see a great example where the federal government invested just under $5 million at Trent University to establish an accelerator for clean tech companies. We're trying to create this kind of setting right in the east part of our city as part of a broader green conservation campus and innovation center. So we're really excited about this project and are eager to hear your feedback on it.
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
Hi, thank you. This is exciting, and I like this idea of a conservation hub out in East Scarborough. So I guess I'm wondering what is the timeline, and is this going to move it so that it can go forward to more detailed design and costing? And then when would you be looking at like procure build? So like what are the different gates associated with this project?
Yeah, thank you for that. There's several different steps, and as you can see from the imagery, we have the ability to divide this up into multiple phases. We've had really positive conversations, with University of Toronto Scarborough. We wouldn't be here today if we weren't confident we were ready to work with our partners, with City Legal, and with TRCA as far as managing some of the shifts in the property line, the rest of it, to make all that happen. So we've started taking those steps. We want to start talking about a longer term lease agreement that allows resources to flow to build that different future together. And, we're a ways down the road. We are likely going to be in a position to start building something if this is approved as early next year. And this will be a project that really will likely span the next half decade as we look at bringing other partners on and expanding our impact at the front door.
So, what are who's contributing all the capital? It's not presumably just the city. Like, what are the different buckets, and what percentage is coming from who on this project? Like, how are we getting matching funds, or are we not there yet?
Well, that's part of what this request is to get the board's endorsement to really pursue those agreements. We're in conversations that say we can come up potentially with an agreement that's a combination of capital upfront and ongoing operating with one partner. We'd like to bring others forward, and we're waiting for D-class estimates, which are those rough estimates from the architects in the next few months. But the question of who we're engaging and what we can build, and making sure the board is comfortable with this idea of we're not just building a Toronto Zoo front entrance. That's what I'm looking for your endorsement on, that we philosophically support bringing like-minded academic, research, conservation, NGO organizations together in the building of this, so I can bring back more detailed plans with those figures.
And so when that's done and it starts to look at, the leveraging and who can also kind of contribute into this, and there's also federal grants and things that I think a lot of this could be eligible for, like centers of excellence, etc., especially when you start bringing in research agencies. But will you also bring forward costing, not just for the capital side but for the operating side, to look at what do you think the ongoing operating costs are, and how the different parties that are participating would contribute to that?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to have those plans in place. And Jennifer, we are seeking that other funding. We applied last November to several grants for infrastructure surrounding the classrooms and the theater to try to bring federal and provincial funding also to this, as well as our partners. And as I mentioned earlier, that combination of capital and operating, how do we bring some capital to the table to stretch what we can build today, and then get those long-term service agreements or lease agreements so we can offset the increased costs when we have that real estate. We need to clean it. We need to have the HVAC staff in to maintain it. We know that's there. So we are looking for those hybrid type relationships so we can reduce our long-term expenditure as far as the zoo having to drive more people to cover that cost.
And then when you do start to look through that operating, will you look at, for example, private entities that may want to rent or use that space? Like, is that something that's also being considered? Maybe teams want to have a retreat or something, and they're meeting in those places, and then they can walk around the zoo on lunch or break or whatever. So are you also looking at like a model where there's some private use of the space as well to generate revenue?
Yeah, thank you for that. When you look at the second floor of that facility, we're picturing a multi-use event space that could be used to be rented out. We've put a lot of thought into it over the past few months of a post-COVID world where you actually have enough real estate that you can bring groups of people together as soon as it's safe to do so, and they can spread out. You'll notice features like a balcony in there, and even that whole courtyard. The back of our head is, how do we host large corporate events where you could come in, close, essentially we describe as those hangar doors to make sure it's not windy, but that would be rain or shine type space, and that could be a celebration of life, a wedding reception, anything. So really looking at multi-use opportunities there. And you'll notice our attention to detail on access in the proposals, that we can have multiple access points to get people in, so groups can come in, have their own space, and also access the zoo, because that's what sets us apart. We're not looking to compete with hotels and existing banquet halls. We're looking to offer a different type of experience that we can monetize and connect people to our mission. They might come for the wedding and leave with a passion for protecting endangered species.
Okay, thank you. I know I've asked a lot of questions. My last one, I'm just very excited by this. I think it's going to be great for our community, Eastern Scarborough. Have Parks Canada been engaged in these conversations, and how are you working with them on that? Because they have their own plans on their site, and there may be synergies or competitiveness between the two. So how are you mitigating that?
Yeah, the genesis of this project actually comes from the Shared Welcome Center in Parking Lot 1. And we've been really keeping our finger on the pulse as far as the new Parks Canada Welcome Center, part of the conservation campus in our mind, and that conservation precinct, along with the biodigester, attracting more people. And our focus, we're laser focused on making sure we're not building facilities that are redundant across the road. So if we're going to build a larger theater or event space, that's the type of piece that we can share. Our missions overlap so closely. We want to bring folks in and make multi-use of that. And if they need that space, we're going to be working really closely with Omar and the team there to make sure we're able to push our shared agenda with this piece of real estate.
Thank you, Jennifer. Questions of staff on this item? Brittany?
Yeah, so I just have some questions about the additional funding. Are you planning on doing like a capital fundraising campaign, or like what styles of like partnerships, funding are you looking for to raise the capital for this project?
So we have the existing capital in the multi-year plan for the initial build. We are looking at a variety of options, whether it's a lease agreement or a license agreement with the partners. And this is kind of next up in the hopper for our Toronto Zoo Wildlife Conservancy. Their primary focus is on the new orang habitat as a new organization with one major campaign that again raised well over $500,000 for food. Their next campaign being $3 million to support the construction of the orangutan habitat is a big ask. But we know there's a lot of different priorities in our community and a lot of different interests. So we'll be working closely with the Wildlife Conservancy for folks who may not be interested in supporting orangs. Is this the type of thing as a place that I think I can really represent our equity, diversity, and inclusion values as a place that brings people together. We talk about a theater not just being about Attenborough films, but being about holiday presentations or kids' concerts and those types of things. We think there's going to be a lot of traction that way, and we'll be working with the Conservancy closely to help generate relationships and donors, as well as the timing of this is critical. We want to have this as a shovel-ready and shovel-worthy project. Because as we look to support governments of all levels with the economic restart, we think this is a great investment. So really also looking at that government funding as a key potential opportunity.
Sorry, one quick follow-up question. And is this a style of project that you would be able to seek the government grants from in order to leverage some of the capital fundraising that you're doing?
That is certainly our goal. And when we applied last fall, and I'm drawing a blank on the grant, if anybody from the staff wants to chime in, and Leon, I don't know if you remember the name and can just pop it in the chat bar. There are several programs that when we present this type of multi-use, multi-audience structure that we qualify under the recreation and the community engagement streams that were out last fall.
Thank you.
Brittany, other questions of Dolph on this item? Seeing none. Dolph, I just had a quick question around the layout. I know that over the years, as I've brought our kids to many different attractions, we literally have to walk through the gift shop to get out of them. And I see that the layout here, the entrance is pushed back, but you're walking by the gift shop. It's kind of off to the side. Is that something we can look at, or is that the rationale behind that?
Absolutely, yeah. This was the conceptual report, and when I talk about the phases, you kind of have the first phase on the top part of the page and to the left, the second phase, top page to the right, and as we bring partners on, that third phase being that bottom piece, and that definitely is part of our model. And how do we serve? And one of the things we're wrestling with is as a community hub, potentially with a large student population there, particularly between September and May. This is one of our key drivers in that quieter time of year. Having the right combination of access to the retail pieces as well as the food pieces is a design element we're still wrestling with, and we'll definitely put that into our thinking because, yeah, that's a huge opportunity.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any speakers on this item? Cynthia Lai.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to quickly say that I'm very excited about these plans, and I really like the wording that Dolph, you're using about community hub. I think we really do need to rethink, and I think the zoo can be multi-purpose, and I just wanted to commend you and your team and your staff. I know how hard you guys are working on these projects, so just want to say thank you and appreciate all your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Any other speakers on this item? Seeing none, I may need somebody to move receipt of the report. Jennifer, seconded by Cynthia. All in favor? Carried. Our next item is number 6, the 2020 6-month guest safety report. Any questions of staff on this item? No. Speakers?
Mr. Chair, are we dealing with item 5 or 6?
Oh, sorry. Got ahead of myself. Number 5 is the 2020 6-month health and safety status report. I need a mover and a seconder. Rebecca, seconded by Jonathan. All in favor? Carried. Now we're on number 6, our 2020 6-month guest safety report. Questions of staff? Mover. Brittany, seconded by Claudia. All in favor? Carried. Claudia, is your assistant helping you out there?
It's in a manner of speaking. This is what happens when you go past an hour with a 2.5-year-old. Where it was either have the scissors come out of the drawer or she's on the call. It's Grace. Do you want to say hi, Grace? Can you say hi? Hi, good girl.
Hi.
Say hi to, there's Counselor Ainsley and Counselor McKelvey. There you go, good girl.
All right, number 6, all in favor? Carried. Number 7, our attendance and revenue report as of June 2020. Questions of staff? Seeing none. Mover and a seconder. Paul Young and Brittany, all in favor? Carried. Number 8 is our 2019 disposal of surplus property. Any questions of staff? Speakers? Cynthia? Holmes, seconded by Matthew. All in favor? Carried. Number 9 is our committee minutes. Any questions on the minutes? Seeing none. A mover. Jennifer, seconded by Jonathan. All in favor? Carried. Our number 10 is our 2019 environmental initiatives report. Any questions of staff on this item? Jennifer McKelvey, questions of staff? Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. So I just have a few questions more about not so much 2019, but like the go forward. So the City of Toronto is now committed to be net zero by 2050. So does this mean that the standard is then put on you being an agency of the city? And how are you going to report back on your plan to do that if it does?
Yeah, I think that's something we want to embrace as well. If we're going to say we're a conservation organization, that's reflective of the type of behavior we need to demonstrate. So our conversations internally have ranged from infrastructure changes we're making right now to upgrade and reduce, particularly with our HVAC, and the board signed off on that last year. We're seeing those changes starting, and they have the 7-year payback, but those are coming in place. We're also seeing it come into play with things like Zoomobiles. The next generation of Zoomobiles, we'd be looking at purchasing, getting away from the traditional fossil fuel burning version, looking at what that's going to look like. And ultimately, what does generation on-site look like for us, or other approaches to reduce our footprint? So we definitely want to, not just follow the city lead. I think it would be amazing if our zoo can beat them there.
And then likewise, like things like generators, like have you started to do kind of like a carbon inventory on all your different pockets? And or, on the one hand, you could kind of get there by, switching things to electric, but then like what with the zoo share happening across the street, like how are you interfacing with that as well? And will you have a deal on fuel from them?
Early days on that. We are an important partner, but those, the energy generated isn't tabbed for the zoo, if you will. We do work with Bullfrog Power with some of our initiatives. For instance, Terra Lumina is Bullfrog powered, so we're using that approach. And going back to your comment on generators, Jennifer, we have 2 of them that we're looking at replacing for next year. And literally yesterday, I sent a note to the team of, what does battery storage look like? And even if we have to go with a mobile generator unit instead of having multiple ones, and do we have solar backup on those? Because, for our zoo, that notion of power supply, when you think of, keeping gorillas warm in the winter, or other species cool in the summer, a break in service just is not an option for us. So where can we work with partners? And we've talked a little bit even about, can we run a Swiss challenge to be that innovation hotbed? My reference earlier to the Green Tech Hub in Trent University and our MOU we signed with Ontario Clean Tech North are indicators of us wanting to bring in new tech and be that sandbox and that pilot project location to lead the way in that.
My last question on this building. So like your orangutan exhibit is being constructed in your front entrance. Like, is the train too far to the station for the orangutan? Like, is that planning to be a net zero facility? And likewise for the front entrance, are you striving to be net zero on that one?
Yeah, 2 really different structures. In the case of the orangutan facility, that wouldn't be a big ask, because there's one small heated room for the researcher and a staff office. The bulk of that habitat is an outdoor space. So as far as the ongoing usage, the material supply for construction, the rest of it, I'll have to chase down with our team as far as offsets for that. For the front entry, we've talked a lot about it being the place where the hidden zoo goes extinct. So how do we put all of that life support HVAC equipment on display and make sure what we're putting on display is the lowest footprint possible? And we're actually using a trip to the zoo to induce others to have those behaviors. So that's not a back of the envelope, that's a front of the envelope thinking element of this new structure and it being a leading conservation site.
Great, thank you. I think you're doing good stuff as well, so very excited by all of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer. Any question of anybody else on this item? Brittany?
Yeah, just a very quick question. I was really interested in hearing about the Zoo app and the Tundra app that we're developing, especially in the relation to the zoo being the most technologically advanced zoo. And I was just curious to know if there was any connection of some of these fantastic green eco zoo initiatives that will be partnered with the technology to make sure that there are, maybe it's like the push around, informing people how to properly compost, if there's any food and recycling and garbage, just seeing if we can really partner with these environmental initiatives with, guest education as well through the technology that we're looking on incorporating.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'd like to give you a better answer than I'm about to give. We're working to actually get Wi-Fi on site, this app as far as the simple things, wayfinding, being able to pre-order your food, knowing what animals are where, and connecting more deeply with those animals by putting keeper talks online, having more information about the individuals. That's the base level we're at right now. I think you're describing exactly the world we want to grow into. As one of the locations we put beacons, some of our trash cans to highlight how people can effectively, dispose of your waste. If we're going to have the composting on site, how are we going to make sure we encourage diversion? And I think there's a great connection to the city of Toronto and practices to make sure we're echoing and amplifying what they want to see. But I think that's a few phases down the road as we get our feet up under us and play some catch up. Really, I'm reluctant to admit that, but this is our getting started app right now with a few, I think, added conservation mission based pieces. And that sounds like the type of piece we need to add next, as well as some other fun things the team suggested, like the ability to purchase a beacon that your child could wear, so you could follow them around the zoo wherever they are, and use the app for those types of purposes. So thank you for that feedback, and Aaliyah and Jennifer on the phone, and we'll make sure they get that fed into that next generation piece.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fantastic. Any way that we can continue to kind of interweave all of the efforts that we're doing, it has to start somewhere, and maybe it's the second generation, but it's great to hear that it's, top of mind at least.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany. Other questions of staff on this item? Seeing none, I need somebody to move this item. Oh, sorry, Dolph, I saw your hand up again.
Yeah, just a quick comment, and a shout out to Kyla Greenham, who's been our manager of conservation and environment. And one of the shifts we made last year in our restructuring was to have her move, and now she sits with our facilities department. So she's always done great work, but having her sit over there really puts her close to our development team. So what we're building next has our conservation professional really close to it. So to your questions, Jennifer, that is really a key piece as far as being organized to make sure we're going to grow into the zoo we need to be, is having those additional experts really close to those projects. So again, setting ourselves up to have the biggest impact possible, and the tremendous amount of work done by Kyla and the rest of the Toronto Zoo team last year in that report, and thanks to them for their leadership.
Thank you, Dolph. Are there any speakers on this item from the Board of Management? Seeing none, I need someone to move and second it. Mover, Rebecca Pang. Seconder. Seconder. Jonathan. All in favor? Carried. Number 11 is the enactment of our bylaw. Are there any questions of staff on this item? Seeing none, I need a mover and a seconder. Cynthia Holmes.
Mr. Chair, we have a motion for you to move on that item. We'll put it up on the screen if you could move that kindly. Thank you.
And okay. So I'm moving the motion. I need a seconder. Brittany, all in favor? Carried. Item, and then this item is amended. Item is amended. All in favor? Carried. And I believe that is the end of our Dolph.
Just one more item. The team let me know the grant that we applied to last November was the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program. So looking at accessing those funds to further leverage the scale and effectiveness of the conservation campus. So that was the program that we applied to.
Okay. Thank you, Dolph. I believe those are all the items on our agenda. I want to thank everybody for their participation today and all the questions of staff and the remarks, and for all your hard work as the Board of Management of the Toronto Zoo. And Dolph, as I mentioned earlier, if you can pass on our thanks and gratitude to all the members of the staff for all of their work on the zoo and ensuring it's the continues to be the world-class attraction that it is. Thank you so much. I need a motion to adjourn. Brittany, seconded by Claudia. All in favor? Carried. Thank you so much, everybody, and I hope everybody stays safe and well. And have a great weekend too.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Great
Thank
job.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.